Okay, I think we are live. Let me check the channel. Yes.
Amazing.
We are live. Yes. So first of all, hello everyone. Welcome to our session today. Let's say this is the first of a series of live streams that we will be presenting in the coming days. So the idea is today is basically to going through and set up your wallet, deploying a contract to COTI Testnet, and sending your first encrypted message to COTI. So the idea is today is to be like a very beginning friendly live stream, like it's a hands-on session. And even if you are like a brand new developer to Web3, or you are just like exploring like the privacy features, we can say you are like in the right place. I will just like say a few words about me. So I'm Davi, I'm from COTI. I'm being in IT for, let's say, quite a while. And over the past 5 to 6 years, I've been focusing on blockchain, especially in EVM networks. I'm here today also with Percival, Upendra, and Joshua. So, who will also be helping out during the live stream. So, Percival, Upendra, and also Joshua, if you would like to say a few words before we can start, feel free.
Brilliant. I guess I'll go if no one's taking it. Thanks, Davi. My name is Josh Maddox. I'm CEPO at COTI, and really excited for this first stay.coti.io live stream event. We've been talking about it for a while. I know we've been working in the background for some time with all the stay.coti.io engineers. So really looking forward to the session and the future sessions coming up. I'll pass it over to you, Percival. And good morning, Stephen from Texas.
Hello, everyone. I'm Percival Lucina, a developer relations engineer for the COTI project at stay.coti.io. I have been on the blockchain space since 2016, working on enterprise blockchain networks, and it's a pleasure to be working with this team of talented engineers to bring COTI for the masses. It's really exciting to be on the edge of this new technology that brings privacy to the public blockchain. COTI is indeed the fastest, lightest, and the most efficient solution for privacy in Web3. So I'm here in this room. You can count on me to spread the word, help builders start working on COTI. And if you have any question on the chat, I'll probably be able to help you.
Hello everyone, this is Upen and I'm also working as a developer relation engineer at the COTI. I've been working in the blockchain field from last 5 years and I've been working as a protocol engineer in many field also. But with the COTI, I got a chance to wipe code here. So probably we are going to do here and I'm also helping you guys with your questions and let's do that. I'm so excited.
Awesome. So, okay, let's get started. I will start by sharing my screen. Just a few seconds. Let me also move it to here. Okay.
Where's everybody based at? So, Percival, you're in Brazil, right? Is that right, Percival? You're based in Brazil?
Yes, also from Brazil, Joshua.
And Upendra, you're based in India at the moment. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm based from India.
I'm currently in Bangkok, so we've got quite the spread of geographies on the call.
Yeah, based on Brazil as well. So here, I don't know if you guys can see my screen now, probably. Yeah, so just to give like context about this hands-on session today. So what we are going to cover, basically. First thing that we are going to cover is the onboard our account so that you can start using it to sign transactions and also to encrypt our text message. So the first thing that we're going to do is basically to onboard our account, and also to fund our account in order to send transactions. And as the last thing, we are going to encrypt our first message and send it to COTI blockchain, and also read that encrypted message, decrypt it, and so that we can be able to see the message. Technically speaking, we are going to separate it into two big phases. Let's say that the first one is basically to create the smart contract. So for that, we are going to clone an existing Hardhat template that we have, so it can facilitate the onboarding process on our smart contracts. And then using also Windsurf AI to guide us during the steps of extending the smart contract and adding new features. And on the second step, we are going to create our interface to interact with the smart contract using v0. So basically, we will use two different AI tools to help us on this. So Windsurf and v0. So let's get started. So as I mentioned, v0 will be our editor. So you can download the v0 from the windsurf.com, and you can download your version of your operation system. You can get a version from Windows, Linux, or Mac, and it's very similar to VS Code actually, because it's basically a fork from the VS Code, but it has some built-in features like the AI tool, and you can use it to help you with the advantage that it knows everything about the context. I mean, if all the source code that you have in your project, the AI can help you exploring that source code and help you to in your coding. I mean, it's really better than basically copy and pasting code on ChatGPT, for example, because in that case, you don't need to go to another tool to ask questions or to copy and paste code from another AI tool. So, okay, in order to start, let me show you here the Hardhat template that you have on COTI. So you can start by cloning this repository. That's basically what I will do. I will do now. I will copy this URL here, and I will go to the Windsurf and clone this repository. And here we can
What does
find.
that mean, Davi? For those who like are joined for the first time, like what does it mean to like clone down a repository?
Yeah, we are using here Git to clone the repository, because here we can find, using Git, you can basically copy this template to your computer, and then you can find a very simple implementation of the private storage contract that will give you an idea on how to write, I mean, a very simple smart contract that works on COTI. It's basically a Solidity code. I mean, we are just importing a library from COTI contracts, as you can see here on the top. And then we are using some specifics functionality for encryption. So, but basically, we are using that template just to, I mean, facilitate this process of creating a smart contract from scratch. And for our example today, what we are going to do, we're going to save a string message. So we are going to send a transaction to COTI to just like save a private message on a smart contract. So as you can see, in this template, we have one method that's set private number, but we want to extend it to set like a string message, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the Windsurf and to ask him how to set, how to create two new methods on these existing smart contracts, so we can start, let's say, using it later to and deploy the contract. So what I will do now, I will ask the AI to help me. So
Davi, is your screen frozen for everyone else, or is it just for me?
all
I'm
right,
still
so
seeing data.
probably yes, good catch. Let me
Yeah.
stop my screen and reshare it.
You can
So in
guarantee if
between,
there's
uh,
4 engineers
I
on a call, there will
was
be technical difficulties.
yeah,
yeah.
I'm sharing my window instead of my entire screen.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, thanks for letting me know. So now we can see the Windsurf editor. So as I was saying, this is our COTI Hardhat template, and here is our private storage contract. This is just for example, but it's a very simple one, and you can start by using it just to understand how things work, just to get started, because it's very simple. And what I was saying before is exactly that line here that's importing our library, our MPC core library, just so we can start using some specific types in the smart contract. So this is like a solidity language, but we are using specific types here in order to save a private number, or in our case, in that demonstration, a private string. So what I'm going to do now, I will ask the AI to extend this smart contract. So add two new methods to set a string message, and also to get a string message from the existing smart contract. So let's see. Okay, I will help you add two methods to get and set a string message in the smart
Hey,
contract.
Davi. Sorry to interrupt your flow. One of the listeners asked if we could increase the if we could bump up the resolution. They said that on YouTube it's very difficult for them to
The
see anything.
resolution.
Maybe we should change the layout. Maybe it helps if I try putting us down.
It looks
If
better for me. I don't know if it looks better for
Yes.
everyone else.
Yeah, can you see it's better now? Okay.
It looks better for me.
Okay.
But if anybody in the chat is having trouble seeing anything, let us know.
Okay. So we already have the result here. As you can see, it helps us to add a new private message here in smart contract, and also added two new methods, a set private message and a get private message. So it basically receives like a string, very basic string, and then it converts it to the garbled text and offboard that text to the user. Here's basically what's happening here. We need to use a specialized type here. That's the IT string. So you can receive that message into the smart contract. And then it's basically converting that IT string into a garbled text string and saving the private message using this method here. That's the offboard to user. Basically, it will allow the destination user that we are going to read this message to decrypt it. So I'm just setting here or in that case, the sender account as the user that will be able to read that message. So the same account that I will be using here to deploy the smart contract will be the same wallet that I will use to read the message. So it's basically like re-encrypting it to the destination user, so that I will be able with my account to decrypt that message later. And I have just those two new methods here. I will accept changes. So as far as I could notice, it's very well coded. So I think there is no like changes to do. Okay. And what we're going to do now, we're going to compile that smart contract. So I will ask the AI also to help me to compile this smart contract. And let's see. Okay, I will help you compile. Let's first check the project structure. Okay, the package JSON and the Hardhat config. Okay, we have here a command. Probably it is trying to execute it automatically, but I will copy and paste the command here. And of course, I need to go to the correct folder because I clone it from the Hardhat template. Let me adjust the columns here, and I will call the npx Hardhat compile. And let's see. I will also need to install the dependencies first. Okay, we have our first problem. Okay, Hardhat which not support list, Hardhat locally use. Okay, let's first do an npm install here to install all the
Exciting to get our
dependencies.
first error. It's we know we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, let's wait until all the dependencies is installed. Yeah, there's also a very cool feature of the Windsurf. That is the cascade feature that you can, of course, enable the auto run. And basically, if you got some error, the Windsurf will try to fix it, and will read your terminal, the output of your terminal, and try to figure out the error, and will try to fix it. So it can be good or bad depending on the situation, because sometimes it can like consume a lot of tokens, and but you can also just like copy and paste the commands from the from here, and use it. I mean, okay, let me move it a little bit to the other monitor.
With Windsurf, can you roll back the way you can with Replit? Like, say it introduces a change trying to fix an error and you don't like it. Is there an easy way to roll back that change?
Actually, you can accept the changes. It will show you, basically as before, it was showing me exactly the lines of code that Windsurf changed, and then you can reject those changes. So, or just Control Z, let's say the changes. But here, I mean, following this conversation, at least here, for example, I have no choice of clicking on a specific point in the time and rolling back. You can basically reject the changes and then ask to another, I mean, solution for that. Basically, what I do, I try to each time that I have something to change on the code, I ask the Windsurf, and in case it fails, I can just copy and paste the message and ask the Windsurf to fix it, or in some cases I just like reject the changes, and then I start again asking it from the beginning. Depending on the situation, sometimes you have a more complex code, and it start, I mean, being like more challenging to get code that compiles. But in that case here, that we have a very simple code, most of the time it works really well. And also, as I mentioned before, it's taking into account all the context that you have here, not just this single file, but all the files that we have under our project. What's a good thing? Let try to compile it again and see what happens. Okay, we got an error regarding the string message, probably because, let's see, we need to add a memory here, right? Line 20, yeah, because this is a string object, and we need to put like in a memory here, probably the same thing here. Let's just check here. I think, yes. Oh no, here is private because we cannot expose it. Sorry. Let me just clean the output again and let's compile the code. So, okay, now we have like the, okay. Really go. Okay, now we have the contract compiled. We just needed to do some small changes, as you could see. So even though Windsurf helped us a lot in the process, but we need to teach something here like the memory, because it's a string object, and also here we cannot expose this object, the string object, as public. It should be private. But now it seems to be working. We have the contract extended, adding two new methods, the set private and the get private. And now, in order to deploy this contract to blockchain, we will need to create our account. It's important to mention that we can actually use a MetaMask account as usual, because it's the same, public and private key. You can use exactly the same. If you already have one, you can use it. But from this demonstration, we'll use a brand new account. So I already prepared here a very simple playground to create a new account from scratch. And also, we can check out the code if you are interested in how to do it using code. But what I will do now, I just create on this button just to generate to me a new private and public key. So I will walk you through the process of funding this account and also generating the AS key, because at least we need to have our private key to deploy the contract, and also we need to fund this account to pay the gas cost of this deployment. So, okay,
So
you
that
already have
for
okay, you
someone
can
who
go.
is new, or for someone who already knows blockchain Ethereum but doesn't know the AES key, so why do you need this AES key for?
Yeah, the ES key in that case is used to sign messages. So in our example, for example, we want to set a private string message in the smart contract. So for that, I need to use a symmetric AES key to sign this message, and I will use that same encryption key to decrypt that message later. So the idea of this encryption key is just to sign your messages. It's different. We need to like do a differentiation from the private key, because we are talking here two different keys. One, the private key, is for you to send message to sign transactions and send it to blockchain, and the encryption key is used to encrypt your data. So that's basically here the difference, and that's why you need a different key for that. This is a symmetric key. It means that the same key that you use to sign a message is exactly the same key that you use to decrypt this message from blockchain, from the smart contract. So that sometimes can cause some confusion, but the private key is of your wallet, and to send transactions, to sign and send transactions. And the encryption key is a symmetric key that's used to encrypt and decrypt message, private message that you want to make it private on blockchain. That's basically the difference here.
So the AS key is what give us the privacy we need on COTI, right?
Exactly, that's the way that you keep the data private on COTI. So it's very important to keep it safe. I mean, this encryption key is not meant to be shared with someone else. So it's like your private key, right? You need to keep it very safe in your. You need to use it just for you, for your private key to sign your transactions and your encryption key to encrypt your data. But it's exactly what makes your data private. So if you have it, if you have the encryption key, you'll be able to see the data, to decrypt that data, basically. Okay, the next step here, once you have a new account created, you need to fund this account. So in order to do that on COTI Testnet, I also, in our playground, it helps you to do that step. You basically need to paste a message on our Discord channel, and in order to get like 10 COTI tokens to be used on deployment, in deploying your contract or interacting with your contract. So basically, what I will do now, I will click on Open Faucet. I need to accept the invite. I'm not sure if I copy here, but I can copy this text to paste on this channel. And here is the COTI Faucet channel on our Discord community. What I will do now, you paste this message here with my public key. This is my public key. And I will wait until I get my 10 COTI tokens to my wallet. Let's wait for a few seconds. And here we have...
That's net, right, Davi?
Sorry?
You're getting your tokens for the testnet, right?
For the testnet, right. So let me just show you how it looks like on our testnet.cotiscan.io. Here is our testnet block explorer. So if I paste my public key here, I can see that I have 10 COTI balance on my wallet. And also here, very first like transaction send me from Faucet to my wallet 10 COTI tokens. So here you can just check your balance as well and see all transactions here.
I think we can also see here like this address has only one transaction, which shows that we just created it, right?
Yeah, the transaction here was the transaction that sent me 10 COTI to my wallet. So that's the first transaction that I have so far. Next, I'm going to create my encryption key. So you'll be able to see a second transaction. Basically, that's where we are going to onboard that account on COTI to have the encryption key. That's exactly the next steps that I'm going to do now. I will click on generate AS key. That's our encryption key. The same here. We can see the code if you want to explore how to do it using TypeScript. You can see here the implementation. I will click on generate AS key. Let's wait until we get the encryption key here. And we can also, okay, we already have here the encryption key. And now if I go to the block explorer, We need to wait probably a few seconds. Here we can see that we have a second transaction. That's basically a transaction that onboards your wallet and gives you encryption key. So
What does that mean, Davi? When you say on board, what exactly does that mean?
In that sense here, it's basically to call a smart contract on the blockchain that will generate to you a new encryption key. Basically, that's the key that we need to use from now on to encrypt your message, whatever you want to keep them keep them private. So this is a process that you will do once. You don't need to call this, every time that you want to interact with some contract, because once you have your encryption key, it never changes. So it's exactly the same for your wallet. But if you change your wallet and you have a new one, of course, if you try to generate a new ASCII, it will gives you a new one. But in my scenario here, I already have an account, I already funded, and I already clicked on generate ASCII. I will still have the same one, even though I click on it again. But this is basically the process of onboarding. We need to start onboarding your account in order to have your encryption key. Otherwise, you won't be able to encrypt your data. Um,
So, if I add it in a simple word, we can say like COTI blockchain. Sorry, Davi, interacting. So, if we say like with a simple blockchain, we need to create a simple private key and public key to interact with that. But COTI provides us a privacy feature, and user have to onboard on the blockchain again if he wants to use that privacy feature. When user creates their account and ask blockchain to he want to onboard to create their use their privacy feature, he has to create a transaction, and then blockchain gonna be creating a user key for that. Using that key, user can create private transaction on the COTI blockchain. I think am I correct, Davi?
Yeah, exactly. Perfect, Upendra. Perfect. Exactly that. So let me now just set the project that we created before here with those data. So what I'm going to do now, I will copy and paste this example.env, and I will start setting our environment here. For the sake of this demonstration, of course, I'm going to show you like the encryption key, the private key, because it's just for testing. I'm not going to deliver anything on production sharing my private key or my encryption key, but just for you understand how it works and how to configure your project locally if you want to reuse the same template that I'm using. So for example, here I have those informations that I need to set. Let me zoom in a bit. And I will copy and paste those informations from this playground. So the first one is the public key. So let me copy and paste here. The second one is my private key. Let me copy and paste here. And the third one is my encryption key. So I will also show you here. As I mentioned, I'm not going to reuse this again. And with that, we have everything that we need in order to deploy. And I will also ask the Windsurf to help me on how to deploy that smart contract to COTI Testnet. So help me to deploy this smart contract to testnet. And let's see the result. It's analyzing the script that we have here and also the deploy script.
And so if I just clone this down from, like I copy it down from GitHub, I have everything that I need here in order to deploy using Windsurf, right? I just need to go get the public key, the private key and the AES key from the playground, and then Windsurf will handle the rest for me.
Exactly. We just need to clone it and set those variables here. But in order to set it, we need to have an existing wallet or to create a new one. And also we need to onboard the wallet on COTI generating our encryption key. And with that, we have everything that we need in order to deploy the contract. Of course, here I'm extending it, adding new features, but you can just play with the existing smart contract that you have here. So you don't need to add anything, just like set the environment variables and install the dependencies as I showed like earlier, like using the npm install, and then compile on the contract and deploy it to the COTI testnet. Now, what I will do is exactly that. I will deploy the contract using Hardhat. So this is the command. I will run the script here. We already have like a deploy script to help us with that. And using the COTI testnet that's already configured in our Hardhat config. We have here the COTI testnet with the chain ID and also with the URL, and here the variables that's been used here to deploy. So let me run this command. And wait until you get like the contract address.
So Hardhat is like sending this to the blockchain, and then the address that we get back will just tell us where we can call that smart contract.
Exactly that. Yeah. Okay. So now you have a contract address. This is the address that we are going to use for now on the next step of our demonstration. So basically now we have the contract deployed to COTI testnet. Let me show you here. Let me go again to the COTI testnet. You'll be able to see the contract there. Let me refresh. That's it. No transactions yet because I just deployed using this account here. That's the 0xC95. That's exactly this account here that I used to deploy. So it's correct. And the deployment transaction here, we can also check it if you want. So, okay, we have a contract deployed to testnet. And now what we are going to do, we are going to the next step. That's basically using v0 to interact with this smart contract. So let me introduce you the v0 that we have here. This is a really nice tool from Vercel that you can use it to build your prototypes, and it helps you to create really nice front-end interfaces. In our scenario here, we need to provide to v0 some important information so that v0 can know how to create that prototype. First one is the contract address that we already have. That's just this address here. So let me paste it here. Also, let me just put the line. The second thing that we need to provide is our ABI. ABI is just an interface of your smart contract. So for v0, understand how to call the methods, we need to provide more information, right? The name of the method, the parameters, the type of each parameter. So for that, we need to use the ABI that you can find here in this file, once we have the smart contract compiled, it will generate the artifacts here. So we have a folder called artifacts, and inside that we have the contracts, and here we can find the private storage.json, exactly the same name of our smart contract, but with .json at the end. What I will do, I will copy this part here, this array that correspond to the ABI.
Hey,
I will
what did
copy
you do
that.
there? I just saw all that information collapse down. What did you do to do that?
With all that information here, I will basically, as you can see, it's basically describing exactly each method name and each parameter that we have. It's like in a JSON format. So I will use that basically to teach v0 how to interact with the smart contract, because here you can see I have the method names, I have the type, that's a function, the inputs of this method, and the type of each parameter. So it's basically all that v0 need to know in order to call those functions later, because in order to set the message, I will need to teach v0 that I want to set a string message, and with that v0 you know exactly which the function's name to call, and how to pass this data to the function. So I will copy here.
So Davi, what it means, like if we are shifting from one AI tool to another, so now my new tool don't have context about our contract, so we need to provide some information, right?
Exactly. Apart from the contract address and the ABI, we will also need to pass some context to the v0. So I will paste here the ABI, but I also need to pass, of course, I need to ask the AI that I want to create a simple interface to set a private message, and to get the private message from COTI Testnet deployed contract, and passing now the contract address, DBI, and also we need to teach v0 the library that we need to import, because by default, if you ask v0 to create an interface like that, v0 will use the standard ethers that doesn't work with COTI, because COTI needs encryption key to be set to our signer, and by default the standard ethers doesn't have that kind of functionality, right? Because with COTI we are dealing with privacy, and once you have it, we need to set the encryption key. So this is important, because sometimes v0 will try to use just like the ethers library instead of COTI ethers library. So we need to teach v0 here. I already have a prompt that I will share with all of you, that will help to teach at least the basics that v0 needs to know in order to interact, that I will copy and paste here. But as I mentioned, I will share also this prompt with you. That's basically that. For example, this is an example how to sign a message with COTI browser provider, and you can see here a snippet code that you can use to do that, and an example on how to read message from the contract. And as you can see here, I'm using the coti-ethers. So this is important to v0 to know that it should use coti-ethers to do that, and also example on how to read that message.
So
So
COTI, sorry to interrupt. So COTI ethers is just like a bit of code that COTI has provided for us that like changes the basic implementation of ethers specifically
exactly.
for COTI.
Mhm.
Okay.
Exactly. Because we need to have here the encryption key. So What we can I have actually an example here on the signing and to read message. That's basically that method here, the set AES key. So on the standard ethers, you don't have it because on using like Ethereum or standard EVM, we don't have that possibility of encrypting and decrypting message. So using the coti-ethers, of course, there is more things, but the most important part here is the possibility of setting your encryption key. So I have a wallet, and in that wallet, I can set this key, and this method is provided by coti-ethers. So we have some, changes on top of the standard ethers in order to allow you to encrypt and decrypt message. So this is an important thing that coti-ethers provides to us when we import it in our project. Let me go back to v0. So yeah, basically I paste here some prompt that to teach v0 about that. And go ahead.
So for Windsurf, you've cloned the Git repository, so Windsurf would have the examples it needed to create the smart contract. And for v0, instead of you cloning a GitHub repository, you are providing some code and parameters for the UI, so it can use the coti-ethers to generate the UI. Is that your approach?
Exactly, because here with v0 you don't have any context, so I'm just like I open it and it start asking the AI about how to do. So in that case I don't have any context. I'm also using v0 here just to mix a little bit the tools. It's also possible to do the same thing using like different AI tools, but in that case I just have like a prompt here in front of me, and there is no context. v0 has no context about what I want to do. So in that case here, yes, I need to provide some code snippets. If I have like the full context, if I already have a project here with some examples on how to do that, for example, using Windsurf, you probably won't be able to do that because I don't need it. But in that case, yes, I need to provide some examples. And in that case here, basically is the contract address, the ABI, and some code snippets on how to connect with coti-ethers. And let's see how it goes. Let's send the prompt to v0. It's always a surprise. Let's see. It's now creating the page for us.
That's the fun of coding with the AI.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to get.
As
I guess it's also the danger.
Yeah, as you can see, it's using the coti-ethers, so it's a good sign. And let's wait until all the code be generated, so you can start testing.
For those who use like Cursor or something like that, I know like in Cursor you can have you can put up a setting where you give Cursor like specific instructions that it should always do whenever you are coding. Could you put information like this into those instruction sets like in Cursor so it always knows to use coti-ethers?
Yes, sure. It's a good point, because you can have like a some prompts that you can use. So each time that we start interacting with the AI, it can have that context, that initial context, where we can start using it. But yeah, it's possible to do. With some tools, you can add those, let's say, context to start with, and then start like elaborating more questions to code based on an initial state, right?
I think when we go into future live streams, I think it's something important for anyone listening to kind of understand about using these AI tools. Is, as Davi said, sometimes you don't know what you're going to get, but over a period of time, if you start to experience errors, and anybody building is going to experience problems. They're going to experience errors. You're going to like hit dead ends. But as you begin to hit those dead ends, you can kind of come back into these subsequent live streams and ask questions. And once you start to build up a base of knowledge of, what some of the common problems are, for example, not using the right ethers, you can start to set context in almost all of the AI tools. You can have a set of context that automatically weeds out a lot of these problems. And, that's something that we can start to provide to people, I think, over time. But it's also, as you begin to watch these live streams, it's something that you can pick up on and set your own context inside of your AI tools.
Awesome. Yes, we have a first version of our interface created here. It looks nice at first, so let's start testing it. It's asking us to provide our private key. Of course, again, as you are just using it for demonstration, it's okay, but never do that in production. Like, never ask for private key or our AS key. It's just for testing, right? For learning here. So let me copy and paste first okay, let me adjust a little bit here. Our private key, I will paste it here, and our AS key, I will paste it here. And now it asks me to provide a private message. So it's basically the message that I want to send to the smart contract, and the smart contract will keep it secret there. As you can see, I already provided my private key that will be used to send the transaction, and the AS key that in that case here will be used to encrypt the message. And with that encrypted message, it will be sent to the smart contract. So I will just write it here, hello, and let's click on the button and see what's happening now. Okay, it seems that
The big
something
moment.
is, yeah.
Get the drum roll going. I feel actually nervous to see what happens.
Yes. Oh, nice. We have a message set successfully. And we also have the transaction hash of the transaction of this transaction. So let's take a look on first. Let me copy the public key of the wallet, and let me search for this on the block scan. Okay, here is my wallet that I used to set the private message. As you can see, a few seconds ago, there is a new transaction, and let me click on this one. Of course, here I have like the transaction that was created to set my private message, but as you can see, I cannot like guess anything based on that. Even though if I try to decode that data here, I won't be able to see the message because it was encrypted using my encryption key. So the only way to know exactly the message here will be using my own encryption key. So as I mentioned before, this is the reason why it's important to keep it safe, because otherwise, if you share your encryption key, anyone can like read this smart contract here and get the message and decrypt it using, even though they are not using your wallet. This is an important thing, because let's say, okay, you are using, in my case, I'm using that wallet here to sign the transactions. But if I switch my wallet and reuse the same encryption key, I will be able to decrypt the message. So this is important about it. What does the decryption is your AS key, not your wallet or your private key. They are used for private key is being used for a different purpose here, just to sign and send transactions. So let's now test if you are able to get the message. This is an important moment. Okay, we can decrypt it correctly using the smart contract. Let me play with something different here. Let's say I will try to change that AS key to another one. Let me get one from a previous account that I created before, just to see if changing the private, the encryption key, I will be able to decrypt, just to, test that. So let me get a second account here, just a second. Okay, let me paste a different encryption key here, and let me click on this button again, and as you can see, I cannot see the message. A bunch of funny characters here, but yeah, I won't be able to see this message using a different encryption key. So let me use the previous one, and here I'm able to decrypt it again. So as you can see, if you use v0 and give to v0 some or teach the v0 how to interact with our contract, basically providing the contract address, the ABI, and some code snippets, the v0 will be able to create a new or a simple prototype for you to connect with the contract and encrypt your message and get your message. Also, if you take a look at the code, as you are seeing before, it's using the coti-ethers, okay, to interact. It also has the contract address that I provided and the contract ABI as well. And you can see all the details. For example, here, the set ES key. Once I have the wallet with the private and the provider, that's in that case is the testnet. Once I have that object, it sets the encryption key to that wallet. And from now on, all the transactions like the get private message and the set private message is sent using my encryption key. Here's also how to decrypt a message. You can use the wallet object to decrypt it, passing the message. In that case, it's decrypting my private message. So basically, your wallet is being used to decrypt the value. All the decryption is off-chain, right? On-chain, the message is decrypted, is stored decrypted on-chain, and off-chain, your wallet will decrypt the message. This is an off-chain process happening here. And here with the set private message, very similar, but here we are just passing the message, the contract address, and the selector of the method. And then we call the set private message, wait until the transaction is confirmed, and that's it. So, and before, very important, we're encrypting, right, with the encrypt value method. So if you use encrypted value and decrypted value, basically that's all the methods that we need to use from the wallet here, apart from the set AS key to set your encryption key. We can actually improve it a little bit more, like using our MetaMask to connect. Instead of asking the user to provide your private key and ES key, you can just play with MetaMask and ask MetaMask to do that. So let's just provide some more context here to v0 so that v0 knows how to integrate with MetaMask. I already have here a prompt that I will also share later that you can use to teach v0 that. That's basically how to connect with the MetaMask using the browser provider class. Let's just compare a few things here.
Okay,
After
so
the
now,
live stream, Davi. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Upendra.
yeah, so now it seems like we are moving toward the security of users' private key. we are integrating a MetaMask wallet, so user don't have to copy paste their private key here, and no one can see that and can copy from that.
Exactly that. Exactly that. The idea here is to avoid like asking users to provide private key. So we started by very beginning like asking it just for the demo purpose. But as we have like the first version already done, we are able to start improving it and avoiding asking for the private key. So what I'm asking now or teaching the V0 now is how to do that using the browser provider, just to do like a very yeah, let's just show you here the the provider. You can see here that I'm using the wallet. So now instead of instantiating the wallet, passing the private key, we are going to inject the MetaMask instance to the browser provider, and then we can have like an object here that's the provider, and then again I can call the get signer of this provider. The signer is basically the connected account that I have on my MetaMask. So from now on I can just start using the provider that I have here, and instead of passing the private key, right? Be much more secure.
So you're using MetaMask to sign the transaction, but you still need to load the ASCII on your code.
Exactly. Right. In that example, right, I still need to set the ASCII, but I can't remove that private key option from here. So let's start now asking or teaching the AI how to integrate with MetaMask. So here I'm saying that we provide some code snippets to help with that. Instead of creating a wallet from private key, we are going to use the browser provider to get the signer from MetaMask, and I will send it.
Great, Davi. And is it possible to use MetaMask to do everything, so we don't need to rely on the code to send any key?
Yeah, it's also possible because we have a method to do that. Here, for example, you can check that. That's a method called generate or recover AS. And with that method, we can recover. So instead of the user providing us the AS key, we can recover that AS key from the wallet. But in order to do that, we need to send a transaction again to the smart contract. This is exactly what we did in the beginning when we are starting onboarding. When we talked about onboarding the account, we basically generate a new AS key from this wallet, and it send a transaction to the blockchain, and it returns a new AS key to the wallet. So we can do exactly the same thing later. We can replace that option of asking about the encryption key and
Davi,
go ahead.
what it means, like if we are going to also recover the AS key using the MetaMask. So as we all know, like in the starting when user was onboarding, he has to pay the gas fee to onboard. So in every transaction he is going to pay the gas fee for creating of AS key from the blockchain.
Yes, each time that we ask for the encryption key to recover the encryption key, we are spending some gas in order to do that, because we need to send a new transaction to the smart contract. So we have two choices here. We can just do it once and save that encryption key and provide it to the user interface each time that we want to use it. Or we can just avoid that approach and just use the MetaMask to send a transaction to the smart contract and give us back the encryption key. But yes, each time that we call, I mean, an on-chain transaction, we are spending some tokens, right? We are paying for that gas to recover that.
Yes, but the good thing is we can always retrieve our AS key back from the network, right? So if you have
Yes,
MetaMask installed, you don't need to worry. You can always retrieve your AS key from the network whenever you need it.
exactly. Yes. Okay, we have here a new version of our frontend. I asked v0 to connect to the MetaMask. Let's see how it works. Okay, I already have an account here. As you can see, it's an COTI account that I created before. It's not the same one. I already have one here created. I will connect that account. And now, as you can see, it removed the possibility of providing the private key, but it's still asking me for the AS key. So let me just check if I have, yeah, that AS key with me here, because this is on, okay, I have it here. Let
In
me
your aim
just
file,
paste. Oh yeah, sure. So the account now is connected, and I provided now the AS key. So let me do that again. Let me change the message to hi. Of course, now I started having some small errors here. Probably because it's still trying to get the private key on some point in the code. Let's ask, yeah, let's ask to the v0 to correct that, right? And just to take a look here in the code to see if something simple to do.
I'm curious to see if v0 itself is able to handle it.
Yeah, let me ask here. Invalid private key. Yes, it's probably using the private key at some point in the code, but it shouldn't, because now we have the wallet connected. Okay, it's changing my code. I see the issue now. The error occurs because we are incorrectly trying to use MetaMask signed directly with COTI wallet constructor. Okay.
But it's really interesting. Like we have provided a small context to the v0, and it has created a complete dApp, which is like operating directly with our blockchain.
Yeah, I think that's the promise of some of this stuff, right? Like maybe in this moment of time, like, v0 or some of these apps aren't going to be able to handle creating like a full grade production app yet. But you can build some pretty amazing interfaces. And 6 months, 12 months from now, what is it going to look like when we've just provided this small context and it's able to do this? So.
Yeah, I think we will be just providing a prompt, and they are gonna taking the context from itself through the internet.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Okay, we have a new version here. Let me connect again with the wallet. Okay, now it's asking me for the
It's asking for the
code. What's that? Okay, let me restore probably the latest version, because here with v0 we can do that. We can just go back and restore a specific version before that fix here. Let me just go back
Yeah, I
here.
find myself doing this often when I think it's important for people on the chat to be able to see whether I'm using v0 or Replit or any of the common tools. I find myself often needing to restore the last version. So if someone is trying something and you keep getting errors, like that's natural, that's going to happen because sometimes the AI hallucinates, sometimes it just gives you bad code, you'll often find yourself going back and smushing this restore button, as it were.
Yeah, it's restoring now. Okay, it was the latest version before the error. Let me just go back here and check probably the mistake. Let me test it again to see the error. And I will paste here the encryption key and set the message again. Okay, it's probably, let's try to fix it. Private, let's go back here, private key. There is no private key mentioned on this code. Invalid private key. Let's go back here. COTI, of course, we are using a wrong object here, probably. Yeah, that's the wrong object. As you can see, and as I mentioned before, there is some confusion when we use v0 regarding the correct library to use. So here it's using the coti-ethers for some kind of objects, but not for browser provider. So let me move it to the coti-ethers and let me remove the ethers, because the standard ethers, it requires you to provide your private key, right? In that case, here we are not, we are injecting the window Ethereum, and with that we are getting the signer from the MetaMask. So you don't need to provide, right, the private key. Let's save it. And
Yeah, one important thing for everyone who is starting with all those tools to generate UIs for COTI is that in the prompts we always mention to use the coti-ethers library, so it will generate some code that's compatible with the ethers, right, Davi? That's a good
yeah,
advice, good practice I do in all my prompts for UI. I always say, well, please make sure that you're using the coti-ethers library. Otherwise, most of the UIs might get confused.
I think that's
yeah,
the
this is
big
the
takeaway from this is make sure you're always saying use coti-ethers. I know I banged my head up against the wall for about 3 hours one night because of that very issue.
yeah, it's the most common mistake when we try to work with the AI tools, is regarding the libraries. Okay, let me connect it again. It asked me about the encryption key. Okay, let me do that again. Okay, it's asked me, I don't know if my latest
Davi,
changes
there was a
or
button
the
ask
point.
v0. I haven't tried that.
Yeah, I actually already tried before, but as we got like wrong results, I just tried to correct it by myself. But let's try it again. Let me just
Yeah, I think
refresh
most
the
people
code.
watching won't have the ability to correct by themselves.
Okay, let me test one time more, and let me try to fix with the zero again.
Yeah, and you can always start from scratch, right? You can start the prompts. Instead of trying to correct, you can start a new prompt and start the process all over again with the new prompt.
Yep.
Yeah, it's trying
Yeah,
to use ethers again.
yeah. I like when I'm approaching these tools if I'm going through like a series of steps like what we followed here. I like to keep a Google Doc on the side where I write my prompts just to save those, and that way if I get down to a period where I have to go back and restart from zero, I can just kind of go and copy paste those prompts back in instead of having to rewrite them. I think you're exactly
One of
right,
the
Percival. Sometimes you just restart.
Yeah, Josh, I think that's correct. One of the most important part of vibe coding, user always need to improve their prompt, always working on their prompts. So if they wanna have a documentation of their prompt, they can go backward and know which works and which needs to be kept.
Yes, because the autocorrect might end up in loops, right? You
Yeah,
never lose the loop. You just change errors all over and over. So.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. I've been in that loop quite a few times.
Yeah, I'm now asking to use the code ethers instead of standard ethers, because again, we got exactly the same solution, but they created like a COTI private key that doesn't exist. Let me, yeah, let me
It's
reinforce
good. It
that
got rid of
we.
ethers.
When now as I am checking the new prompt of Davi, I come across a meme like when AI use ruling the humans and come to a people like he said please, so left him. Davi is in every prompt is saying please.
Yeah, Davi will get to live. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to say please all the time when I was doing this. I actually read. I don't want to believe it because I think I think you should want to be polite to things. But I read that the more that you use polite words in the AI, actually the worse your output gets for some reason. I'll try to find the article and send it to you, but it's crazy. Like if you ask like please and thank you, it actually uh, makes the quality of the outputs that you get worse.
Interesting. Interesting.
Uh,
Okay. Okay. Let me
nice.
ask nice account substrings on a function. Okay, let me try to fix it again with
I think that
zero.
I think that please was the problem.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
coti-ethers library is something really new, and the AIs don't know how to handle it very well. So the same thing as sometimes we include some parameters for your prompt. Sometimes it's also a good idea to provide a static reference for the coti-ethers to be used in your prompt. So the AI gets right, especially those web-based AIs. They sometimes search the internet for CDNs and other stuff and might get confused. So one thing I explored, that's when we are building UIs, sometimes it's nice to send a static reference for the COTI ethers. So the AI is really using the right version.
Yeah. But I think it's also good for people to see the reality of where the tools are right now, right? Like you will, no matter what you're building, even some very common libraries that are out there, you'll get caught in these loops, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And you know, I think the important thing is to get in and you start trying and you start like Upendra said earlier. If you get too lost, then you start going back to the beginning, kind of restart from where you were. And a lot of the times, it takes 5 to 10 minutes to spin something up. Um, and so going back 5 to 10 minutes in the past doesn't really hurt anything.
Yeah, it's insisting that we need to have an COTI private key. So I just like telling that we can remove it because it doesn't exist. The private key is from the comes from the private key from the the wallet, MetaMask wallet. So we don't need to pass it. Let
And it's
me.
also on the examples you provided to AI, right? So maybe the first example you provided to AI, Davi, didn't have any mention about how to use MetaMask. So for the first example without MetaMask, yeah, the context your examples you provided were enough. And now it doesn't know how to handle the MetaMask really well because it's different from the standard Ether.js examples. It has been trained in the past.
Yes. Yes, V0 is confusing because of the private key. Once you connect our MetaMask, we don't need a private key. And V0 is trying to basically to ask on the user interface to provide the private key again. So it's a bit confusion because what we're trying to do is basically to inject the MetaMask instance and start working with it. I will also provide again a code snippet if it don't work now. Okay, let's try again. Connect the wallet. Okay, now it removed the option for private key. Let me put the encryption key again. Just a sec. And let me write the message. Okay, now I get a window prompt for signing. It's good because if I want to send that message to the smart contract, I first need to encrypt that message here using my wallet. It wasn't asking me before because I set my private key directly on the user interface. It was using my private key to instantiate my wallet, and with that, it's like signing. It's encrypting my message with no. Interaction with me. But now that I have the MetaMask connected, I need to confirm. And now I need to send it. Okay, it's looking good so far. Okay, I have the transaction created. Let's see it on chain. Going to the COTI Testnet and checking out the transaction. Okay, from this wallet, let me check here. It's the correct wallet. Yes, 0x0d7 to our smart contract. So now let's test the opposite, the get the message. Okay, here we go. We have the high corrected, decrypted. Now using my MetaMask wallet. So basically what I did here, yeah, I just told him to remove the COTI private key because it doesn't exist. And yeah, not so much actually. So instead of restoring, I just guide to the right direction. Okay, it's working now. Let me see something here. Okay. And okay, it's getting taking so long to load it. Probably let me refresh the page. One thing it's very common to happen is as you are interacting with the v0 and the chat is it's becoming like long. We need to fork your project to start continue working with it, because for example you are now almost 1 hour, I mean probably around 1 hour interacting with v0, and the chat, you can see there is a lot of questions and answers. And also v0 recommend you to fork your project if you continue like interacting with it for a long time, to avoid to get very slow the interaction with the user interface. As you can see now, I mean, it's taking more time to load, it's taking more time to answer, so sometimes you need to fork it. But what I want to do now is to deploy it, so you can have a live address where you can interact with it outside of the v0, right? Because v0 helps you to, let me close that window and open a new one. It's just a memory issue. And v0 allows you to deploy to Vercel with no code experience, just like clicking on the button, and it will start the deployment process. What's really good, you don't need to have any interaction, yeah, with the or any prior knowledge on the DevOps or things like that.
So
Yeah, let
v0
me.
works like your development workstation and how you're publishing your app to production environment on Vercel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is really good because you can easily deploy it with no code experience, you should probably try to fork it if v0 allows me to do that. Okay, let me show you the deployment option here. For example, now I can deploy to Vercel by clicking on this button. Very simple. And let's wait until v0 deploy it so you can do a test using a live URL.
And so this basically takes our code that's sitting in Vercel, makes it so that way we can access it from like a public HTTPS address, correct?
Yes, correct.
And we could kind of send it around to our friends or whoever too.
Okay, starting now. Deploying with, okay, using next. Generating static pages. Build completed. And now it's deploying the output. So it's done. As you can see, it created for me a domain where I can interact. Also, if I want, I can configure a custom domain on it. But let me click on this link here and go to the implementation. Okay, let me connect my wallet. Let me provide my encryption key and set a new message here. Okay, it's important because, as I mentioned before, I need to sign the message using my wallet, and the second is for send the transaction to blockchain. So here, of course, I need to pay some fee. We click on it. Okay, was confirmed. And let me click on it to get the message from the smart contract. So yeah, was able now to create like a very simple prototype version just to interact with the contract that we created on COTI. Very simple example, like setting a private message and getting that private message from the smart contract using my encryption key. So as you can see, it's very easy to deploy using v0. It's really just like click on a button and that's done. And you can
So,
redeploy it as well and specify a specific version if you want. Go
so
ahead.
using this link, any user can create and add a private message on.
Yes.
Anyone can test that. He just need
And
to have a MetaMask account and he need to create the AS key.
yeah, yes, need to have, like in that example here that I just deployed now, we need to have that a MetaMask configured, because our first version we are just setting the private key, but that latest version, yes, the user needs to know the MetaMask in order to use that example, and also to onboard the account first. So that we also have like a playground created using v0 for that. So you can't create and fund an account before like using that contract interface. And also it's important to mention that that contract that was created now, it's like a single state. I mean, if I set a new message to this contract, it will override the existing one to replace the existing one. So if, for example, a lot of people start to using it, each one that's connected with this will like replacing the the current version to current value to the new one. So, but just to keep it simple, we just like created a version that allows you to set a single message and retrieve a single message. If you set it again, it will replace the existing one. But we can test it with that version with no problems. Just like need to take care of a lot of people trying to use it at the same time, right? It's not a multi-user; it's like a single-user version. Um,
And I think Koti also provide a platform, to create account and create AES key like sandbox.koti.io.
yeah, you also have some sandboxes. You also have some templates that you can create based on those on V0 as well. We have one that we deployed, so we can start using that. So in my case here, I just teach V0 from scratch, but of course you can start using V0, creating a new project based on a template if you want. I don't actually have here the link, but we can just provide it. I don't know if you have Upendra, but you can provide it later, the link to the templates and the playground so that people can start playing with it. This is all from the community, right? You
Yeah,
can
like
see here.
with the Windsurf, we started with a template, so it was really easy for Windsurf to understand the context and just created with a little prompts. But with V0, we have to give more prompt and context. It's just because we didn't start with a template. We just start with a simple prompt. So if a person going to start with a simple template which has basic functionality, it will help V0 to reduce the work.
Exactly. Yeah, and
And
using the template, we can allows the visitor to understand the context, right? We already have an initial context that visitor can use to start generating code.
Yeah.
I think we can set that up for a future live stream where we can start with some of the templates and show people how to use some of the templates. But yeah, I think you did an excellent job today, Davi.
Yeah, that's basically all. I think our goal was to create the smart contract and to also onboard our first wallet and then start interacting with it using V0. So we basically accomplished our goal. Of course, we could also notice some how to interact with V0. Of course, we have some fixes to do, but at the end, we were able to create it and to deploy a version using Vercel and start interacting with it. So that's basically was the goal of today. I don't know if you have some more questions. We
I
can
think
start
on
directly.
on Wednesday, I
Hmm.
believe we have some office hours. Is that right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so maybe on Wednesday, for anybody who's coming into the chat, we can help provide some of those links. And for anybody who's going to come back and build along with us, we can provide some of the links and some of the templates that we discussed in this live stream.
Okay, that's basically all from me. Maybe you can just share like the we also have an agenda here of the next live streams, right? So we have next Wednesday the office hours, and next Friday we have also a nice one about Cursor, Lovable, V0, Replit, and Windsurf. And next week we have a live building with Replit. So we can check out the details of the agenda of the next live, the upcoming live streams on stay.coti.io.
Think so. All right.
All right, that's all. I don't know, Percival, Pendra, some final words.
Yeah,
Excellent
so
job.
talking about the stay.coti.io, it's the perfect spot if you want to learn anything about the Koti, any information of the upcoming event. As you can see, it provides everything. And I would like to thanks Davi. He has done a perfect job explaining from the basic and also showing the in depth how our new coding tools can perform with our Koti blockchain. And if you're gonna be stuck somewhere, then how can you providing a correct prompt and correct guidance can achieve your goals. And in future we are going to come up with that type of live stream with a broader, AI tools. We are covering all the AI tools also, as well as we are also going to pick good use cases as suggested in the stay.coti.io. You can check out. So yeah, it was really nice vibe coding with you guys.
Thanks, Upendra. And yeah, that's all. See you in the next live stream, and stay Cody. Thanks for watching. Hope you like it, and see you in the next live. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Stay coding.